So we're back with another dumb deck idea.
Yep.
It's how most of these decks get made, is that we ask a stupid question and they demand stupid answers. So
that's true. That's how we made the Shadowborn Apostle decks as
that
well.
was a dumb deck.
Distraction makers.
You know, one of the theories we have about Commander is that your opponents, when they are attacking your other opponents, are one of your resources. So the question was, well, what happens if I turbocharge those resources so that my opponents can play as many things as possible? And then again, making that assumption that as long as they're attacking my opponents, that benefits me.
Right. This sort of goes in line with something we've talked about a lot, the bystander problem, right? Is that if your opponents are spending resources attacking each other, you can sort of accumulate your resources to build up defenses, essentially.
Yeah, and instead of building up defenses in this deck, I'm building up things that just make more resources for my opponent.
Right.
So it's kind of a group slug deck, but it's not as mean as what a lot of those decks are, because I want my opponents to play things. Usually group slug is very punishing, where you're basically saying if you play something, you're taking damage. Where this is, nope, you just get a bunch of resources. You're probably going to take some incremental damage on the way, but play as many things as you want and attack each other. And then theoretically, I'll come out on top at the end.
Right.
Maybe.
So you want to quickly tell us what Yurlok does?
So the commander I chose for this is Yurlok the Shorch Thrash.
That's his name?
No, Yurlok of Shorch Thrash.
Scorched Trash?
Yeah, he's Scorched Trash for
Yeah.
sure. This deck is definitely Scorched Trash. I can't even say that. It's like
I know. Scorched Thrash?
Scorched Thrash.
Scorched Thrash. I feel like that's something that you type up and you go, that's sick. And then you try and say it and you're like, fuck, never mind. Shouldn't
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Okay, so Yurlok of Shorch Thrash costs 1 and a Jund.
Yeah,
He's
you're part of us now.
He's a 4/4 Vigilance. He also has a player losing unspent mana causes that player to lose that much life. That's right. Mana burn is back, baby. He also has to pay, you can pay 1 generic mana to tap him, and then each player adds a Jund to their mana pool. So you basically can use him as one of the best mana dorks in the game, and also a burn spell that deals 3 damage to each opponent, unless they have instant speed stuff that for some reason needs red, black, or green.
And what's he cost? He's 5 mana?
He's 4 mana.
4 mana.
1 and a Jund.
Okay. See, doesn't that just roll off the tongue?
1 and a Jund.
1 and a Jund.
Some of them do.
Yeah. 1 and a Jeskai.
Right. So that's sort of the idea of the deck. So the role of the deck that we define, that I sort of defined for it, is a supercharger role, which basically is like, again, I'm trying to just give my opponents overwhelming resources and make their decks run super hot, that eventually they sort of like overload themselves, and I can capitalize on the fact that all of my opponents have tons of stuff on the board and they're attacking each other, and I'll sort of do some incremental damage and theoretically come out on top.
So this is kind of similar to something we talked about on a previous sort of deck tech video where we covered the Bumblefogger deck that kind of used the term mutually assured destruction, right? So giving everybody lots of weapons means that maybe everyone will either attack each other or not attack, essentially. But if that's the case, they aren't attacking you, and that's really all that matters.
Right. Really just focused on giving my opponents as many resources as possible. One thing I will say about playing this deck is that you might want to talk to, obviously, Rule 0 here and say, hey, this is what my deck does. So everybody's going to have tons of mana. Like you will not want 4 mana or cards probably, and the game will probably end pretty quickly.
I found that in at least the 2 cases, right, of our 2 decks that sort of function in this sort of group dynamic, is that they can scale fairly well between different decks, but probably not at like pre-con level. I've played, and I think I've seen that deck played against sort of lower powered decks. And what's weird is that even if you're having all the mana in the world, and even if you're drawing all the cards in the world, there's still someone on their turn that's just like, I just don't know what to do. Like,
well, right, and like if your opponents can't like play a lot of spells in the same turn, sometimes they can't take advantage of all the mana. It also does take quite a bit of brain power to do some of the just tracking of what's going on. There's often times where I will help my opponents count the mana that I have bestowed upon them. Something to just keep in mind. Okay, so let's get into the deck itself. First, we'll start with the mana base. This follows our general guidelines where we say somewhere around 32 lands and 16 mana dorks.
That's right.
And it is great.
It works.
Works great.
Works great. Don't get all the hate. I don't get it.
I don't get all the hate either. Works great.
It works fantastic.
Why all the hate? Works great.
I was trying to rhyme.
That's good, though.
Certainly not like 90s, like Will Smith rapping.
So yeah, it does play. This one does play 33 lands and 15 mana generators. So plays, Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, and then mostly mana dorks. And then also Yurlok is a really powerful mana dork. So that ends up working out pretty well there. So the next category of cards I am calling carrots. So these are cards that give my opponents a lot of stuff. So yeah, carrots are cards that are incentivizing my opponents to play more stuff. So that's going to be things that make them draw more cards or things that give them more mana. Some notable cards here are Scrawling Crawler and Howling Mine. So Howling Mine says at the beginning of each player's draw step, if Howling Mine is untapped, this is when artifacts used to turn off when you tapped them. That has not been the case for a very long time, but that's why it says that. If Howling Mine is untapped, that player draws an additional card. And then Scrawling Crawler is a 3-mana, 2/3 creature, artifact creature, that at the beginning of your upkeep, meaning mine, each player draws a card. Whenever an opponent draws a card, that player loses 1 life. So this deck actually prefers Scrawling Crawler over Howling Mine a bit, and it's because not only do we draw the cards on my upkeep, which means that I get to take advantage of that card before my opponents would. It also does some incremental damage to my opponents to try to get everybody's life total down to a lower level much more quickly. The other category here in the drawing cards carrot category are wheels. So it plays Wheel of Fortune and a few other wheel spells. And basically, I want to use these when my opponents have played their cards out, not just me. So the idea is we're all playing the cards from our hands, and then these wheels will refill our hands rapidly so that we can jump back in and play more stuff. Next are mana generating carrots, and these are things like Rites of Flourishing is kind of both, right? The beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws an additional card, and then each player may play an additional land on each of their turns.
It's a great card.
Great card. And then the other ones, again, are Mana Flare, which is the sort of quintessential mana doubler. Whenever a player taps a land for mana, that player adds 1 mana of any type that land produced. So every land taps for 2. And then Overabundance. This is, again, falling in the similar category of giving my opponents extra resources, but then also dealing incremental damage. Overabundance says whenever a player taps a land for mana, that player adds 1 additional mana to his or her mana pool of the same type, and Overabundance deals 1 damage to him or her. So yeah, this category is really where I'm sort of, it's playing a lot of cards in this category because I'm trying to, again, make sure I have these mana doublers, these card draw engines for all of my opponents to, again, incentivize them to play a lot of stuff.
So the majority of cards that you've shown so far have just been things that it draws everybody cards, builds a lot of mana up. Yurlok is ideally, pinging people for a little bit of incremental damage. So how do you, with that, then prevent other players from going and targeting you?
Right. So the next category is sticks, which is sort of the things to do just that, which mostly is goading, right? I want to basically force my opponents to do the thing that I'm trying to get them to do, which is to attack my other opponents and not me. So Eye of Nidhogg is a new-ish card from Final Fantasy.
New-ish.
And
new cards come out every 2 weeks.
So Eye of Nidhogg costs 2 and a black as an enchantment, enchant creature. The enchanted creature is a black dragon with base power 4/2. It has flying, death touch, and is goaded. And then when this goes to my graveyard, I get to return it to my hand. There's a few more things that sort of in this stick category that it move more into that group slug thing that I was talking about before. And most of these cards I won't play until I've gotten to the point where I won't really play this until I've sort of turned the corner to close out the game. So a lot of sort of Punisher group slug style decks will play like Zozu. So whenever a player like plays a land, they'll take damage. I don't want to do that incremental damage early to sort of prevent my opponents from playing worse things. But what I want to do is accelerate the game to a certain point where then I need to kind of go over the top of everybody, and that's when I'll play these sort of group slug cards. Stand out here, and one of the inspirations for the deck is Rurik Thar, the Unbowed. Unbowed? Unbowed.
Yeah, he's German.
So Rurik Thar costs 4 and a Gruul. It has Vigilance Reach. It is a 6/6 that attacks each combat if able. But the real finisher here is whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, Rurik Thar deals 6 damage to that player. And I basically, I'll just take 6 damage from this too. Sometimes depends, but usually this is just I'm gonna put this on the board after I've sort of given my opponents tons of mana and tons of cards, and then let them take damage if they want to play anything that's not a creature.
And I'm assuming most people, if they were to play something, it's probably going to have to be something that kills Rurik Thar.
Yeah, they might want to do that. Yeah. But also, if you play creatures, everything's fine, which leads into part of the way that this deck wins. So, okay, so how does the deck close out the game? There's 2 major ways that the deck wins. One is that I'll have everybody play all these creatures, and then I will steal all of them with Insurrection and win the game. It's not a particularly creative way to win the game. Usually I try to just win through incremental damage, but if things have kind of gotten massively out of control, this is one way I'll close the game out. An Insurrection is 5 mana and 3 red, so 8 mana total. 5 generic, 3 red. It's a sorcery. Untap all creatures and gain control of them until end of turn. They gain haste until end of turn. Most people have seen this card before. The other way that the deck can win is with a combo with Yurlok. So Yurlok, like I said, is a mana dork. You can pay 1 mana, tap it to add 3 mana to your mana pool, but in combination with Umbral Mantle or Staff of Domination, you can untap Yurlok to use his ability multiple times. So Umbral Mantle, if it's equipped to Yurlok, equipped creature has pay 3, untap the creature. This creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn, meaning you can pay 1 mana to tap Yurlok again, pay the 3 from Yurlok to untap him, pay 1 mana, tap him again. And then if I have anything that produces extra mana for my lands, mana doubling, that kind of thing, I can basically go infinite with this kind of combo. So be aware that those things do go infinite. So if your play group doesn't like infinite combos, you can just not go infinite here. It's a choice. Okay, so that sort of closes out the deck. So yeah.
I feel like I've played against this deck maybe 3 or 4 times at this point. Not a ton, but did not know that you had Insurrection in the deck because it's never gotten to that point.
The game's usually over before it matters.
I think the first time that you played the deck, it ended after like turn 4, but it's just because everyone leaned real hard into it and was like, yeah, okay, well, we're just going to cast a ton of spells.
Yeah, it's a fun experience when you sort of like prime everybody and say, hey, look, this deck is going to make things go real fast. So everybody lean into it, and we'll get a game in half an hour or less.
No, it's always, I think it's always been a fun deck to see at the table, which is nice. I think it's how we have kind of both been handling sort of deck philosophy a little bit, which is that I personally, I don't get that much satisfaction anymore with like trying to find like doing different themes or doing like a tribal deck or something like that. I'm not like, ooh, I want to make elves or Eldrazi or whatever. Usually it's like some sort of like an idea where usually we're chatting about something. And I think this has happened like 2 or 3 times now that we've chatted about something, and then I think we both left for the night and then started working or thinking about making decks about that idea, and then we would meet again later that week and be like, oh, well, shit. So.
Right, yeah. It's usually like we're sort of analyzing Commander as a system. We're trying to understand like how it moves and functions, and then we're like, well, we could, if this is the case, let's test that hypothesis and build a deck that puts pressure on that particular idea to see if it pans out. And this one does. So I think it's worth building, having a good time with. Again, making sure that you inform your opponents that this is the plan that you have, because it gets crazy, it gets a little crazy. So the last thing that we like to do with our decks is build in some kind of a fatal flaw. I think this one's is probably pretty obvious. I am powering up my opponents as much as possible. And sometimes it blows up in your face. So you kind of have to be okay with that just being the outcome.
But that's okay because you have 2 fogs in the deck.
I do play 2 fogs. Obscuring Haze, real good.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all should play it.
I hope more people start playing fogs. I feel like I never really saw anybody play fogs, but maybe it's just because of our play group. But even I feel like when I've watched Commander gameplay, people didn't really play fogs. But I think
they play like everybody leans into board wipes,
and I don't get it.
And this deck plays 0. Like you don't need board wipes. You shouldn't play board wipes, especially like with this deck's philosophy of I want my opponents to be as strong as possible because when they are attacking my other opponents, they are my greatest resource, right? I get to, you can build a deck that is designed to be completely focused on itself and like building up its own wealth, its own resources as much as possible. But when you are the deck that is powering up that person's 3 other opponents, they're going to be at a pretty big disadvantage.
Yeah.
That's really the idea.
And I think what's interesting about the use of fogs too versus board wipes is kind of funny is like you can't really hold up board wipes as a threat. You can't be like, I'm going to wipe the board if you do that, because it's like, well, you're going to do that when it's most advantageous to you anyways.
Yeah.
But you can or cannot decide to fog someone, and that's whether someone's going to get value out of their turn or not. Yeah. Because it's not about destroying all their stuff, because you're going to destroy all their stuff anyways if you happen to have a board wipe. But a fog could be used on any one combat. So you just want to make sure your combat doesn't go to waste.
Yeah, you're just like, well, what if you just pointed that cannon over there, buddy? I like the energy, but what if it went over there?
And that's when you promise them a couple extra mana and give them, give them a little more.
Oh, you need some help casting that? I could tap Yurlok for you.
Give you a couple cards.
Yeah. Yep. Honestly, too, with the another sort of like problematic thing that comes up sometimes is with incremental damage. Like when you're the deck that's doing incremental damage to people, they tend to go, I don't like that. I want to stop that from happening. I'm going to attack you. But since you're also giving everybody tons of cards and mana, they tend to be okay with it. So
I think that you're right in that most people try to attack you very quickly, but it's what happens is people are like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to use that mana right now. I'm going to build a big board state, and I'm going to get you. But then if everyone's building a big board state, all of a sudden
somebody else
you're
looks
not,
scarier.
You're not that threat anymore. So while yes, early on people can point at you and be like, I see what you're doing. I know what's going on. Let me summon 6 more creatures. And then
yeah, by the time it gets back around to them when they can attack, they're like, wait a minute, that stuff's scary over there. Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
So there you go. Hopefully you check it out. Enjoy the gameplay. Yeah. All right. Take us out of here.
If you enjoy listening to us talk about Yurlok, and if you're a big fan of Mana Burn, please feel free to give us a little like and a subscribe, maybe a comment down below.
That's a good one. That's a good one. If you want to join our Discord, the link is in the description. You should do that. That's stupid. If you want to continue the conversation, if you have any questions, you should do it. If you want to join our Discord, link is in the description. Thanks for watching. We will see you next time.